Welcome back with a new video, my top 50 favorites albums from the 70s, my favorite decade in pop rock history, as for so many of you as well, I think. Great, that was when music production in a way was at its climax. I already did a top 10 of the 80s and a top 50 of the 90s. I did just 10 of the 80s because the top 50 of the 90s, that was too much to make it in one video. That wasn't a good idea to make a ranking of 50 albums in one go. That's also why you can see several edits in the top 50 90s video, because it was, too much aggravation to do it in one go. That's why I only did 10 from the 80s, which was a kind of a mistake because there are many more great albums from a decade. So this is like the 90s video top 50, but not all 50 in one video. I will do it in 5 steps, each video 10 albums, like a countdown. And it starts with my 50th, according to today, 50th favorite album from the 70s. These things change. If I would do the same thing next week, it would be maybe a different album than today. Usually the top 5, top 10 are the ones that are kind of firm for me and don't change that much. But in those lower places, those things can change a lot. And when I'm saying lower places, we're talking about the 70s, so even the 50th favorite album of mine is a 10 out of 10 masterpiece to me. I think, I don't know, maybe there are 100 or 150 albums from that decade that I would consider masterpieces. It's my favorite decade, as I said. Number 50 is Born to Run by Bruce Springsteen, his third album, not my favorite album, not even my favorite album from the 70s, so this is a kind of a spoiler. We will have at least one, maybe two more albums by Bruce, but this of course is big breakthrough album. The albums before, I don't want to spoil too much, but I prefer the albums before, but they weren't those big commercial successes that this would be, and I can see why, because the title track or Thunder Road, great classics, but also the other songs like 10th Avenue Freeze Out, Backstreet, Jungle Land, all classics in my opinion. Great album. Number 49, album I've talked about several times already on this channel. It was also in my list in my series of underrated albums, so I don't think you will see it in many other top 50 of the 70s lists, but I Love London Town by Wings. If you want to find out more about that album, watch that video where I'm talking about how it's underrated, or my Paul McCartney ranking videos. If you're more into the whimsical, folky stuff, the stuff that sometimes gets ridiculed by people who want to demonstrate that they're edgy or rocking, into rock music. This isn't your McCartney album if you're one of those people. This is more, folky ballads, and it's almost campy or twee in moments, but I really enjoy it, and great atmosphere, that album. Number 48 is the only album, I think, in the complete top 50 ranking that I don't have on physical copy, because it's Rumours by Fleetwood Mac. I couldn't leave that out. Too many great songs on it, and it's too big of a classic. But it's one of the most talked about albums, especially these days, of the 70s. But it's a great album, great 70s production, very rich production. Next one is my second favorite, I think my second favorite Rolling Stones album of all time. It's Goat's Head Soup. Those who watched several other videos of my channel already know what my favorite Rolling Stones album will be later on, not today, much later on. But Goat's Head Soup, maybe the most, again underrated, maybe the most underrated albums, especially from the 70s. My favorite track is Winter, might be one of my top 5 favorite Rolling Stones songs. Number 46, I hope the censors of YouTube will let me show you this. Country Life by Roxy Music, I think the 4th album, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, the 4th album, and one of the best albums. Great songs like The Thrill of It All, it's Mother of Pearl, oh no, it's not on there, All I Want Is You, Out of the Blue, lots of great songs on that album. Number 45, Venus and Mars, again Wings. So the first artist to have 2 entries in this list is Paul McCartney. Venus and Mars, great rock. This is, like when I said, London Town isn't really an album for edgy rock fans. Venus and Mars isn't an edgy album. It's Wings after all, but it's a rock album. If you want to call it soft rock, call it soft rock. But it also has really hard rocking songs like Letting Go as well, and all around it's really great melodies. It's Paul McCartney. Great melodies, great arrangements. I've seen some videos by other people from the McCartney fan community who think that this album, the weak thing about this album is the production, but I disagree. It's probably my favorite Wings production, or one of my favorites. It's a bit odd, it's a bit strange, how it's not really the production, but people always say it's the production. I think they mean the mix. It's strange how some things are mixed on that album. One of my favorite songs on that album is Love and Song, and some instruments really mixed in an odd way on that, but I like it. It gives it a kind of psychedelic feel. I don't know if that was consciously or just a mistake, but it has a dreamy quality, that album. It's also like it's not really a concept album, but if it's a concept album, Venus and Mars, it's a bit of like astrology and stuff like that, and it's probably Paul McCartney's most esoteric album, and so the weird sound, like a science fiction sound, or almost, I really like that. 44 is Wave by Patti Smith. Easter is also from that era. This is from 1979. I think Easter is the album before. Easter, I think, is almost as good. This would be a top 60 of the 70s. Easter is probably between number 51 and number 60 for me. This is Wave, and like the title suggests, it's a bit like Patti Smith's a new wave album. She was always like the punk, but this album, produced by Todd Rundgren, also incorporates lots of almost disco sounds into her sound. So you get this mix of punk and disco, like with Blondie from that era, like a song like Heart of Glass by Blondie. If you like a song like Heart of Glass by Blondie, then this is your Patti Smith album. My favorite song is the opener, Frederick, and my second favorite song is the second track, Dancing Barefoot. So it's a great start to this all-round really great album. Also, again, we've had it with other albums on this list already. I think it's a bit underrated. Next one is Inner Visions, not underrated, I would say, by Stevie Wonder, one of his most classic albums. The mid-70s Stevie Wonder. He had like 3, 4, 5, depending on who you ask, big mega masterpieces in a row, and this is one of those. Favorite tracks, all classics, of course: Living for the City, He's Mr. Know-It-All, Higher Ground, of course, the usual suspects, I would say. Number 42, maybe, and I haven't checked it, the oldest album on the list came out in late April, early May 1970. The final Beatle album, Let It Be. This version is also my favorite version. Many Beatle fans think that Phil Spector ruined it. I think I'm one of those who thinks he saved it. It's much better than any of the Glyn Jones mixes. Also way better than Let It Be Naked. It's the final album after the split. So the big drama of the choirs and the big orchestra on Long and Winding Road, I think that's what those songs needed, especially in the context of the time. And there's still lots of very rough sounding, jammy sounding songs on there as well, so you can't blame Phil Spector that he polished it too much. It's still a very unpolished album, I would say. Let It Be, Beatles, great album, of course. And the last one for today, I have to look at the list, or I have just to pick it. 41, Band on the Run. So 3 Wings albums already. I think by the next video maybe we have all the whole career of Paul McCartney in the 70s in 2 videos now. Band on the Run by Paul McCartney, and Wings, of course. Yeah, great, full of classics, like all the albums in this top 50. You know, we're talking about the 70s, so I'm not going to tell you the complete track list, because basically the complete track list, maybe minus Mamunia or No Words, is just Paul McCartney classics. So this was the first installment of my top 50 favorite albums from the 70s. Hope you enjoyed it, and more, you know, numbers 40 to 31 next time. Thank you very much for watching. Until next time, goodbye.